Okay, this is just a quick review of solving quadratic equations by the quadratic formula. First of all, though, it's important to know the quadratic formula. Hopefully the video link on Canvas is helping with that. I just find that if you use it a few times, you remember it too. So the quadratic formula is stated here as x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. It's important to note that this is true as long as you have a quadratic equation set equal to 0. So sometimes we get so wrapped up in remembering the formula that we forget the condition for the formula is you have to have it set equal to 0. So I'm just going to walk through two examples to clarify the process. First, let's look at x squared plus 8x minus 8 equals 0. You'll notice it is in the proper form. It's already set to 0. So I'm just going to, on the side here, jot down my a, b, and c values. It's pretty easy, but I just want to make sure no sign errors get made. So a, just the value in front of x squared, is just 1 in this example. B in front of x is 8. And c as the constant is negative 8. So make sure you keep the sign of negative 8 there. And then I just like to write down the formula every time. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And then we'll start plugging in our values. So in this example, b was 8, therefore negative b will be negative 8 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so I'm going to put in my 8 and square it, minus 4 times our a value, which was 1, times our c value, which was negative 8, and that's all going to be divided by 2 times my a value again, which was just 1. So there it is, just plugging in the values of a, b, and c for this specific example. Now we're going to work on simplifying, and the simplifying can look a little different for every problem. So we'll see how we feel here. Just give ourselves a little bit more room. Hopefully. Come on. Sometimes I can't get this to work. Okay, we'll go for there for a moment. So as we simplify here, underneath the radical is mostly where I need to be working. If we take 8 squared here, we're going to have 64. And if we do 4 times 1 times 8, that's 32. The proper sign in between is plus. That's one of the most common errors, is to make an error with the sign in between here. But notice I have a negative times a positive, so that's really a positive. So 64 plus 32 should give me 96 underneath the radical. And the denominator is just 2 times 1, so just 2. I'm not done yet because underneath the radical we can still simplify. And then after we simplify and pull something out, we'll see if all terms divide. So let's think about 96 for a moment. If you made a factor tree, you would find that 96 is going to be 16 times 6. That's one way of looking at it, or it would break down to a bunch of 2's and a factor of 3. So I'm going to let that be done on your own to verify that a 4 will come out and a 6 will stay in. You can pause the video and try that for yourself. And then I can go a little further here because every term is now divisible by 2. So by that I mean I'm looking at this negative 8 term is divisible by 2. This 4 square root of 6 is divisible by 2, and of course 2 is divisible by 2. So let's knock every term here down by 2. Negative 8 divided by 2 would be a negative 4. A 4 divided by 2 would be a 2 out front of the radical now. And for the denominator we had 2, we divided by 2, so we're just dividing by 1. It's unnecessary to write that out, dividing by 1. Therefore, there's our final result. If you're a solution set person, you can surely take it a little bit further and give me a negative 4 minus 2 square root of 6 and negative 4 plus 2 square root of 6. Feel free to take it to that notation if that's your preference. So that's one example. Again, I'm trying to pull slightly harder examples to clarify the process. Let's look at one where the solutions are imaginary. So we'll walk through this one as well. Notice the form is not proper here, meaning it's not set equal to 0. So first things first, I need to set this equation equal to 0. I'm going to do that simply by grabbing my negative 4x and adding him to both sides. And I'm going to write it as x squared now plus 4x plus 5 is equal to 0. So there's my rewrite. Immediately I'll jot down my a, b, and c on the side, and then we'll start in. So our a value again is just the coefficient on x squared, that looks like 1 here. B is our value in front of x, so that's 4. C is our constant, he's just 5. So all my a, b, c values in this example are positive. Jotting down the quadratic formula, again the more you write it, the more comfortable you get with it. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. There it is in general. Let's go ahead and start plugging in our a, b, c values. So negative b for us will look like negative 4, since b was 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is going to be 4 squared, minus 4 times our a value, which was 1, times our c value, which was 5, all divided by 2 times our a value. So there is the initial plug-in, and now we're just going to work on the simplifying. So let's go ahead and work underneath the radical just like we did in the prior example. Still got my negative 4 out front, plus or minus. So underneath the radical, 4 squared gives us 16. 4 times 1 times 5 gives us 20. And it's subtraction between these two, because I had a negative 4 times 1 times 5. That's a negative 20. So 16 minus 20 gives us just a negative 4 underneath the radical. You should start thinking I, right? And then we're still dividing just by 2 times 1, so 2. So this is looking pretty good. As I clean up, I'm going to go ahead and simplify that radical. The square root of negative 4 is just 2i. Again, you can verify that for yourself. We know the square root of 4 is just 2. And anytime we have a negative 1 under the radical, that is by definition just I. And we're still dividing by 2. So to finish this one off, I'm going to notice that every term here is divisible by 2. So just like before, I'm talking about negative 4 being divisible by 2, 2i is divisible by 2, and 2 is surely divisible by 2. When we clean up, we'll have just a negative 2 plus or minus I all over 1. Don't need to write that. So x is equal to negative 2 plus or minus I here. And if I can get my, I will write that also in our solution set notation. So negative 2 minus I and negative 2 plus I if you're a solution set person. And that is it. Hopefully that helps. Again, every problem's a little different, but just getting comfortable plugging into the quadratic formula.